welcome back to That Dad Guy. It is January 23rd, 2025, which means it's my parents' anniversary, so happy anniversary to my parents, their 67th wedding anniversary. I know they're not watching this, but I'll put it out there into the universe anyways. Happy anniversary to them. Now, today, it was another chilly day. It was in the minus 20 to 28 range with the wind chill. So that's the third day in a row that we've had that. It is warming up now as the day gets a little later. And we're supposed to get a little bit of snow this afternoon, between 2 and 4 centimeters of snow. But it still was a chilly morning. And I would have liked to have had a nice bowl of chili to warm up my insides when I got home. I had a sandwich instead. Not quite the same thing, but on the radio they're talking about Soup Fest. That's coming up here. Right now it's Burger Fest in Moncton, and then as of February 1st, I think it's February 1st, Soup Fest kicks off, and that's just a one-day event, but it's a great way to warm up your insides on a winter day, is having a bowl of soup or chili. So it brings me to today's stamps. And we've been going through my father's stamp collection, which I have organized a little bit better behind me now. And we've been going through alphabetically through the stamps that my father has of South America, or the Americas, anything that wasn't Canada and the US, so that would include Mexico all the way down. And the last video we did was on the Cayman Islands. So this video, you're finding for the first time, might be a good chance that you can like, subscribe, leave positive comments, and share with other people. Put the notification bell on so you don't miss out on anything. Like the topic today, the country today, Chile. I figured I'm cold, I'm chilly. We're talking about food and Chile. We should do the country of Chile, which has no bearing on the other two, other than if you were in the Andes Mountains, it might be a little chilly. So let's go a little bit of history of the country, and then we will get to the stamps that were in my father's collection, which weren't a lot, but I have managed to acquire a few more to add to it to show you a few more examples of Chilean stamps. So what do we know about Chile? Did you know the motto is be reason or by force? By reason or by force. Those are two really, really strong statements. That can unpack a lot of information just in that motto by itself. By reason or by force. So we're gonna get you on the same page one way or the other. Did you know it was a Spanish-speaking country primarily? You probably did. And did you know this flag? Looks familiar to me. When I saw it, now I've seen a lot of flags over time, but when I see this flag, it reminds me of another flag. The motto for this flag is it's called the Lone Star because it has one single star on it. There is a place in the United States that really goes heavy into the Lone Star state, and that's Texas. But the flag of Chile is 22 years older than the Texas flag, which is almost identical. The only difference to the flag of Texas to the flag of Chile is that the blue that you'll see on the side of the flag of Chile extends all the way down to the bottom on the Texas flag. So the bars of white and red are the exact same size. But let's look at the original, the Chilean flag. So the star is representative of the star of Venus, symbolizing a guide to progress and honor. The blue background behind it is the sky and the Pacific Ocean. The white stripe represents the snow on the covered mountains of the Andes. And the red is the blood that was shed to get independence. So that's the history behind this Lone Star flag that is quite powerful. Now let's go back in history. There have been tools discovered that humans and indigenous people have been in this region for more than 18,000 years. It wasn't until 1520 that the Europeans, we've discovered a country or a territory. It had been discovered a long time before that. But Ferdinand Magellan went through the Southern Passage on his way to circumnavigate the globe, and that was the first time a European had come to the Chilean area. In 1535, Spanish conquistadors came from Peru looking for gold, and that's when they started putting settlements there. In 1541, the city of Santiago was founded, and Chile was used mostly for its rich agricultural lands. They were looking for gold and silver. They didn't find a lot of that, but they did find very fertile land that they could use and chop down wood and use the wood, the trees that they'd found. So that's what the Spanish used that area for. But they didn't do it easily. The Mapuche tribes fought back hard, forcing the Spanish to go a lot further north than they wanted to, because in the south it was the indigenous that were fighting them back. In the north, they're running into the desert. On the west-hand side, they had the Pacific Ocean. On the eastern side, they had the Andes, and so they had that rich area right in between. Chile hosted the largest standing army, making it the most militarized of the Spanish possessions, because it had to combat the English buccaneers that were trying to attack and take possession of the territories, the Dutch buccaneers, the pirates that were coming in, and the indigenous tribes that were fighting back against slavery and having their lands ravaged. In 1818, though, Chile got their independence. And it all started back in 1808 when Napoleon decided he's going to put his brother on the Spanish throne. And the monarchists in Chile said, we don't like that. We are loyal to the old crown. And by 1810, there was an autonomous government for Chile within the Spanish monarchy. And then by 1818, they had independence. So independence saw a little change, though. The Europeans that were running Chile, the social and political factors remained the same. And so even though they had independence from Spain, it still kind of was running it the same way. Chile wanted to expand its territories. You can see how big it was at one point in time. They wanted to go into the Pacific Ocean. They actually wanted to go all the way to the Philippines and liberate them and make them part of them. But through a series of interactions and wars, a lot of the eastern side of Chile became part of Argentina, and some treaties were signed. They did get the Strait of Magellan, that's the Southern Passage. They did get that, and don't have the year right here, but they did get the Easter Islands as well. But they lost some land to Bolivia and to Peru. They had a War of the Pacific, though, in 1779 to 1884, excuse me. They had the War of the Pacific, and Chile actually extended quite a bit up the northern side, taking Bolivia's coast away from them, so they no longer had access to the Pacific when they won that war, and they got a little bit of Peru at the top as well, so they really got into some rich lands and took control of that. In 1889, they were in a naval race with Argentina, and that almost happened going into war. But the big one that they got involved in was in 1885, when the Panama Crisis went into effect. So that basically was, Panama was part of Colombia, that territory, and the United States had said, okay, well, we'll come down here and we'll protect it as long as we get free passage through. And they were on their way to trying to annex it. And so Chile got on the side of Colombia and decided they were going to send their naval ships up in order to protect it. And they had quite a strong navy in comparison to the United States at that time. And so they almost went to war, the two of them, over the protection of the Panama Canal. Kind of indicative of what's going on today, too. Maybe not with Chile, but with the Panama Canal in the United States. But crisis was averted. By the time the Chilean naval ships got there, the U.S. had backed off and not forced the situation any further. But it's interesting to think that time. By the 1900s, though, in Chile, the government swayed between being far lefts and far right. They went back and forth quite a bit, all the way up until 1970. 1970, the Socialist Party under Salvador Allende got elected. They had a joint government with the communists and some other left-hand side parties, which kind of upset the United States, is what they were not looking at, seeing more communist countries and more communist parties taking power. We were in the midst of the Cold War. And so in the 70s, Chile started to nationalize things, nationalize banks, coal mines. They were really putting things into an upheaval. They were trying to give more rights to laborers. There were some social aspects happening, but it was also going into a Great Depression at the same time. And so in 1973, there was a coup, and Pinochet rose to power. It was more of a right-wing aspect. There was rumors that maybe Richard Nixon had sent some people in to help with that coup. Nothing's been proven that way, but the U.S. government may or may not have had some interest in seeing a change of government take place. Between 1973 and 1990, Pinochet ran Chile the way it was, and from then, 1990 to current, they've had switches of government, back and forth, but their social and economic standing has grown substantially, and they've become a very peaceful country and less corruption than anywhere else. Chile is now one of the South America's most stable and most prosperous nations. So there's a lot to be said about what's been going on there. And they produce some stamps too. So we're going to look at those stamps now that we have a little bit of background history about how Chile came to be and how it is now, and some of the trials and tribulations that they've gone through. So in my father's collection, he has 3 pages of stamps. They're all starting here. You can see this set of stamps. I think I've added some airmail stamps in along the way too. I don't have them currently in the ones that I'm going to display here today, but I do have some airmail stamps that have come from there, and I've sent some off too. You can see Easter Island as one of their possessions. You can see stamps with overprints. Maybe that was during the 70s. These ones are certainly older than that. Really nice ones here. Even though it's the same image, different colors though, I really like the features behind it. And then that was it for what my father had. So I luckily found some at the local stamp fair. So I bought a collection. So some of these you can see are duplicates of what he already had. Rotary stamp there, so service clubs. Sporting events, transportations. This one here is just a giant work of art. Love that stamp. You can see skiing, because it is one of those countries that, yes, it has the Pacific Oceans and beautiful beach lines on one side, but it has the mountains on the other side, so it has a little bit of everything down there for sure. Did you know in 2000, I believe it's 2006, Chile elected their first female leader. So they were ahead of their time at that point too. Got some Christmas stamps in there. More sporting ones. Sold games in 1988. Really nice dual stamp there. I'm glad that both of them are in the collection. And of course, Chile has territory down where the penguins live. So they have stamps for that too, exploration stamps. So if you need an Antarctic visit, that's most likely where you're going to leave from. You're going to go from Chile. My wife and I once looked at a cruise, not that we could afford to do it, but an Antarctic cruise, and it did leave out of Chile. But it was something like $10,000 a person at the time for a week to do it. Not within our budget, that's for sure. Would love to have, but... These early stamps I really like. So you can see they're not in date order. They were just however I'd gotten them. I haven't put Scott numbers beneath them or anything yet. Or moved them to Vario pages, which is also another option. And I believe that's a duplicate. And that is it. So once again, that is a quick glimpse into South American stamps and the country of Chile and what my father had collected, when I've been able to add briefly to the collection as well. I know there's so much more, but it's a snapshot. So if you haven't checked out stamps from South America before, this might be a country you want to start looking more into. Every week, we're going to go further in depth in what's in these binders, what countries, what mysteries are out there, learn a little bit of history of these countries. And I know in the comments, I'm going to learn some things too, because you guys will add stuff to it that you always do. I can't begin to give a complete history of one country and all the rights and wrongs that happen there, but I try to give you a snapshot at least. Give me a snapshot. So it's a great way for me to learn each week about a new area, a different area, an area that I probably have not been to, but hopefully one day would get to experience, and maybe you will too. All right, have a magical week. What, Polo? You say like, subscribe, share, and tell all your friends.
Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?
Bye. The city of Concepcion was founded in 1550 on the boundary of the Spanish territory to the north and the land of the Mapuche to the south. Earthquakes and tsunamis razed this town to the ground in 1570, 1657, 1687, 1730, and 1751. In 1751, they said enough's enough, we're moving the town, and the town was moved to the Valle de la Mocha. And so that's its current location here. You can see almost in the center of Chile. In 1919, the University of Concepcion was established. It was the first secular private university in Chile, and now the city is known as the University City. So, did you know that? I bet you Isabel did.